brokers are like different personalities, right? So you may find a personality of broker that might be more kind of the kind-hearted one that'll be like, you know what, I'll throw this guy these deals or share these deals with him. And then you got the other people, they're just like, do. They're not going to waste time with the newbie as much.
Hey, my name is Julian Castle, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Ka, how do, Pankaj?
Pankaj, yes.
Pankaj, thank you. And Pankaj is a real estate investor who's going to be sharing his experience with us. And he's very successful. And I want Pankaj to give us a little breakdown of, what gives them the credibility to be able to speak about this, the authority.
So I've been, we've been in multifamily for a while now because I'm like 54 years old now, but when I was 10 years old, my father bought his first apartment building. He
Hmm.
bought a 52 unit and no money down, kind of, when I say no money down, I mean, it's not really, he wasn't, he got owner financing, seller financing. He was able to raise the $90,000 to put further down because he didn't even have the whole down money himself.
Hmm.
So it was one of those deals where he didn't really even have a whole lot of capital. He was able to borrow some money, refinance his home, take the money he had in savings and things that put everything together and do a seller financing. And from that, like 40 some years ago, we've been in multifamily real estate. And so I kind of grew up in the industry as a 10 years old, 12 years old. Mostly I was going on painting apartments on the weekends, cutting the grass and stuff like that. So I always saw like the worker side of things, and I really didn't like it growing up. Um, but I liked, having, cash, obviously, but I just didn't like the problems and stuff and dealing with that kind of stuff. So it wasn't until I got older and I started reading about investments, reading like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and those things, when the light bulb really came on and started seeing like the investment side of things rather than like the worker side of things.
Hmm.
And so for the last over 20 years, for sure, I've been, in multifamily. I have about a little over 2,200 units right now that we own and manage. We have quite a bit of equity at the moment too, so we're looking to expand. And right now we're just kind of gearing up. Both our kids are in college,
Hmm.
and they're in their 20s. One's 20, he'll be 21 next month, and the other one's 18. He'll be 19. Oh, he just turned 19. I can't keep up with these guys. So kind of gearing them up for the future and what they want to, take the enterprise forward because we have about 15, 16 properties, 50 some employees. So we're just kind of like looking at the future, where we want to go, what do we want to do, where we want to, because you can't stop in real estate. Like you got to continue to grow because you're either growing or you're dying. If you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you die. It's an old saying, right? So in this industry, obviously, you stop growing, you stop acquiring, then you start paying more taxes and then those type of things. So you got to continue to keep the wheels churning.
Hmm.
Uh, and the
Yeah,
last few have been, and I'll say this and I'll let you guys question. The last few years have been quite kind of difficult finding good deals. It's like a lot of things have been just overpriced. And I think now we're starting to see some, the deal flow kind of start to open up a little bit more. And I'm really looking forward to, a greater deal flow coming forward into the end of this year, into more so the beginning of next year. We're looking at, so let's see what happens.
that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Um, what do you know or what do you hear about the upcoming few years? Anything, is there any writing on the wall about what's about to happen?
I think a lot of people are speculating that, the end of this, mostly more so like the beginning of 2024, we're going to see a lot of people kind of life-changing, stuff happening. People are going to be people who are not like not set up financially right. They're going to have to sell some assets in order to save some assets, maybe, that type of thing, where just things are just not going to make sense. People are going to be kind of forced to sell, and they're not going to be able to get the premiums that were available last year. So things are starting to, now you've seen the cap rates are starting to expand a little bit. You're starting to see a little bit more deal flow. So the people are selling now. It seems like the people who are selling now are people who have to sell, more so. And but it's not just really not at that point where the prices come to, because we've been in the habit of really, throughout our years, we've bought distressed properties. We bought properties that are beat up,
Hmm.
needed work, mismanaged, and then we could go in there, start improving the management, start, fixing up the properties, and and just, make it more operationally effective and stabilize it and hold it for the long run, you know. Um, but a lot of these properties that are older properties, we call workforce, built in the 70s, some are a little older. A lot of them, like, there's just a huge amount of capital expenditures that's happening now. There's a lot of fix up going on into those properties. So I'm really in the future, hopefully looking for like more so newer vintage, looking for something 1990s and above,
Mm.
especially there's a lot of meat left on the bone for us, but for the next generation, we're looking forward to, what can they carry over in the next 50 years, 100 years. So I just recently started thinking that mindset of like a longer term vision for what we need to do, because I got to a place where I got real comfortable. We got a lot of equity, we've got a lot, everything's good, cash flow is good, property's good, management's good. It's like we're good in a good place. We're not over leveraged, we're under leveraged. And but then I started seeing, like, what do we got to do for the next 50 to 100 years? What's going down the loan? What's going to happen with society? What changes are going to take place in the demographics? AI, what's AI going to do to real
Yeah.
estate? So these are a lot of questions. It's like we're in a very rapidly changing world. So I used to always say, apartments are going to be around. The only thing you change is the bathroom and the kitchen. But you know, who knows what's going on forward? Unless they're going to start, putting pods on the moon or something like that. Apartments are always going to be in high demand, right?
Yeah. Several things have been changing since the introduction of ChatGPT, and all of these new ventures are starting up. Um, and so I want to talk about kind of, your family was in real estate. And at 10 years old, your dad got, heavily into real estate with 52 units. You didn't know what was real estate then, but you found out later. And I want to emphasize some of the points of why you were bought into real estate so that people could see that in themselves.
Yeah. So what made me like really, when the light bulb came on, what did I really see? I saw the benefits. I saw the tax benefits. The depreciation, the appreciation. The ability to have assets and different, to run a lot of things out of your business. So to get those tax benefits that you never get from a W-2, passive income. All these things were really good. And then obviously, like that we saw, like, like that, like, for example, that property that was bought over 40 years ago for less than $500,000 today is $5 million.
Mhm.
Now that's a long-term play, and but the other properties too have really, the value has really appreciated. So now you're getting cash flow immediately when you purchase a property that's not, that you don't have to put a lot of investment into, but you're getting cash flow from the day one, right? But then you're also getting the appreciation, and then you get the leverage. All these things, there's so many aspects of it, but the leverage of where else, what other industry are you going to get coming in with, you know, $250,000 to $300,000, and you're by getting an asset that's $1 million. You're putting in 25 to 30%, getting an asset, that's 75% more than what you're putting into it, and being able to leverage that and get the value from that asset, and then having the asset itself generate the income over the period of time to pay itself off.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, what is a distressed asset to you?
So distress is, the owner's in trouble. He's not able to financially make the ends meet. Maybe they're not managing it properly. They're obviously not putting money back into it. They're fixing it up. They're not taking care of their tenants for sure. And then, they haven't put in the proper type of tenants, so all of this, it just goes on and on. One thing just boomerangs into another. It's just a domino effect. But it starts with the management side of things, or having the right proper people in the proper seats. Um, and so if you don't have the proper management in place, you're going to have an asset that's distressed. If you're not allocating the money to put back into fixing it up, it's going to be distressed. If you're not taking care of the property, you're not taking care of your people, it gets distressed. And so some people just refuse to do it out of like just being cheap. And then some people just don't know, they put the wrong people in the place. And sometimes the management company or whatever takes advantage of the owner, and then they become distressed. So there's a lot of different ways you become distressed.
Hmm. And how how do you find, you mentioned you find distressed properties and then that's what you buy into. You know, where do you find these distressed properties?
All the properties that we've pretty much purchased have come through just the brokers. You know, you develop this relationship with brokers, and then brokers, you develop a reputation, and then the brokers know what type of assets that'll be good for you. So they may not bring me over the years, they may not have brought me the A-class properties or the, you know, the higher end properties, but they know like these type of properties. This is a Sharma special right here. They'll buy this all day long. You know what I mean? They're
This
big
has
buyers.
Sharma's name on it right there.
Yeah, so they know the brokers get to, you know, because the broker doesn't want to waste a lot of time. He's not gonna nowadays, especially, you know, brokers, they know exactly who to buy, sell what to, and they don't have to shop it out to 100 different people or whatever. You know, they shop it to key people that they know are gonna do it. So it's like building that reputation is important. Building that relationship with the brokers is very important. Um, Connecting with the brokers on a regular basis is important, you know.
Yeah.
Do it. I don't do enough personally, but it's all, this is a definitely a relationship business for sure. You know, it's not always what you know, it's who you know.
Mhm. How have how do you build relationships with brokers? How do you build that rapport? How do you build that credibility to get them to actually send the property to you?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's you gotta like start, obviously you gotta start communicating with them. You gotta show them, you know, you're serious. You gotta show them, you know, what you're talking about as far as what you're looking for. You have to have an idea of what you're looking for. You can't go in there and just act like, they're not going to waste. You got to show them that you mean business. You know, that's the thing. Brokers need people who are not going to waste their time.
Hmm.
Time is money for them. They want, like I said, they're not taking their time selling anything. They're moving on, they're selling that deal, moving on to the next one. So you want to be in their, you know, in their view, you want to connect with them, you want to show them. And, I'm sure, it's like finding ones that are, um, there's different brokers are like different personalities, right? So you may find a personality of broker that might be more kind of the kind-hearted one that'll be like, you know what, I'll throw this guy these deals or share these deals with them. And then you got the other people, they're just like they're not going to waste time with the newbie as much, right? So it's also a numbers game of reaching out to a variety of brokers and going to making those connections and just seeing who's amenable to communicating and building that dialogue with,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then and then show them. And then once if a broker brings you a good deal, you got to act on it, because if you don't act on it, they're not going to bring you the second one, the third one, whatever. They're not going to continue to, they're not going to waste their time with you when you show them that you're just like going to kick the tires or whatever. You're not going to,
Yeah.
especially if it's a good deal. Obviously, you got to do your due diligence and things of that nature, but you can't, you just can't be, I don't want to say it, but you can't just be a prick, basically. You know what I mean? You gotta.
You can't be a tire kicker, guys. If you're in this business, you got to learn this business. And if you're talking to a broker and an opportunity presents itself, you got to act on the opportunity.
So it's been a while. It's been a seller's market for a while now, you
Hmm.
know. And then but everything happens in cycles. If you've been around long enough in the game, you know that it doesn't stay one way for long. But this has been a very long period of time with the real estate just going. Now we're starting to see it increment, like we're
Yeah.
starting the dip starting to
The
happen.
peak hit, and we're seeing the roller coaster ride down.
Everything moves in cycles,
Yeah.
you
So,
know.
Pankaj, what would you do if you suddenly were to lose everything,
It's a good question. I don't really like
but
to
you
think
have
about it,
all the experience?
but I have other experience. I think if I had no, if I mean, because I have the experience, so I would try to get into property management probably, because even though I hate property management, it's something that you can do without having a whole lot of income,
Hmm.
capital. You could get in and start doing property management, whether you're working for somebody, or you start a property management company. Starting because people who need sophisticated logistics, because property management is all logistics, pretty much
Yeah.
logistics, operations, and having the right people. It's also very much like a, one of the biggest key issues in property management is people, sourcing the proper people. Uh, a lot of the property management companies, if you ask them, they have a hard time keeping their people.
Hmm.
We've been pretty blessed to we have a pretty high retention rate. And at our company, SNS Properties Investment, we have a pretty high retention rate. It's very rare. I'm not good at hiring, but it's very rare that I have to go out and get somebody. So
Hmm. That's good. Yeah, property management is definitely a good place to go learn how to manage property, which is a very important part of the whole
and
investing.
a lot of people say as investors, I mean, so nowadays, nowadays property management companies themselves are much more sophisticated. They can do things at a cheaper rate. So it's good now for a lot of investors to come in and have a good property management company, do their thing for them. But you really need to be on top of the property management company. You have to manage the property management company. You have to be the asset manager. You have to be looking at what they're doing and the numbers and things like that. You can't just say, here, this is my property, do it, because you're going to get some bad news down the road. You have to still be involved, even though somebody else is managing your property.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about some of those what they would call KPIs. Something that you do on a weekly or monthly basis with your property managers to ensure that the property is being managed at its top, at its peak performance.
Yeah. So now the great thing that I'm just starting to learn about that I still haven't, activated in our company yet, but I'm looking into is this AI. AI does a lot of the
Heavy
helps to
lifting.
increase the revenue for like how much you should charge for the rent, what's available in the market. And it looks at, 2 bedrooms, what are 2 bedrooms going for in this vicinity? How many 2 bedrooms are available? What can you charge today? All that stuff that, it's the same thing that airlines and hotels have been using. See, their rates are never the same. The
Hmm.
rates are always changing. You book a flight this day, it's going to be a different rate. But apartments, we've been used to like, okay, this is the rent for a 2 bedroom. This is the rent for a 3 bedroom. Now AI came in about 10, 15 years ago into kind of using the same type of technology that the airlines and hotels are using. And so this is what I'm starting to look at too, because I met with somebody and that's what they use. And they said it's really helped them to push their revenue up. So what was the question? I got lost on this AI thing.
That's a really good answer.
Things to look at, but key things to look at is are we getting the most efficiency out of this apartment? And it'll even look at, it'll even start charging different rates for, this bedroom has this type of view or this, like if the more data you give it, the more it'll analyze and give you the different rates for the apartment. So it's maximizing the revenue. And then also it's giving, instead of just giving the automatic 12-year lease, which has totally changed, is a game changer for me too, because I just rented an apartment for my son and we signed an 11-month lease for his college instead of a 12-year lease, 12-month lease. And it'll even stagger like the lease dates and give you a cheap, like the 11-month lease was cheaper than the 13th month lease, which would go against our, thinking,
Yeah.
right? The AI is calculating that if, okay, we can get this in 11 months, then if they doesn't renew it, we can get at that point, maybe, a higher rent or something, so it's taking in all this data, it's coming up with all this stuff. So the AI thing is real important going forward in understanding um, how much we can calculate the rents at rather
Yeah.
than going off of our emotions, just going off of what we think, but it's going off of more, data driven. So we're looking at that data. And then the other thing, look, this is another eye opener for me. This is all like new stuff on my horizon that I would like, if you asked me a few months ago, I wouldn't be able to, share this with you because I wasn't open to it. I wasn't open to studying. But I'm like a student. I'm going back to the drawing board and realizing like I don't know, I don't have all the answers. I need to like re-educate myself because the world is changing, right?
Mhm.
So before it's always like, okay, we need to be at 100% capacity, 100% capacity. Now it's like, if you're at 100% capacity, AI is saying you're being too cheap. You should need it something like you can set a parameter. I'm working with it with this asset managers. You can set a parameter of like, okay, at 95% capacity is our goal target. We want to be at 95%. Like, whereas us, we always want to be at 100%. We want to have, so it's like understanding you can make more from less.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm understanding is by being occupied 95%, but having a higher rent price, you're actually making more money than being 100% occupied with a lower price.
Yes,
Yeah, that's amazing. And if
exactly.
where are you finding these stuff on AI? Is there a place that you're going to?
So there's different companies. Like for example, I just had a meeting with Yardi a couple of days ago, and Yardi has revenue IQ management or something like they call it revenue IQ.
Hmm.
You go to Real Page, they
Hmm.
have something similar like IQ revenue AI management or something like that. So they use the same type of stuff. You have CoStar, you have YieldStar. So like RealPage owns CoStar, which gives
Hmm.
you all the data, right? And then YieldStar, but that's really expensive. Now all these other companies are starting to come out and start providing the same thing. Crexy is a cheaper one. Crexy also does what CoStar kind of does, but
Yeah.
Crexy, much cheaper. They say that they have that data. So somebody like from Crexy has approached me as well. Crexy has a lot of like different deals and stuff. So they've been a forum that I've used for online auctions in the last 2 years. They've had some online auctions as well for apartments,
Hmm.
uh, and so there's all the companies are coming out, and then what happens is what's going to happen, and what is happening is AI is going to be cheaper and cheaper. Where before it was very expensive to use it,
Hmm.
the more so it's just like anything else, more it becomes active, and more people start using it, then more it brings down the price as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It really sounds like AI is going to be worth the cost of whatever it is because it's going to give a lot more.
The other thing that I didn't know that's really huge, I'm sharing all this new, fresh insights with you that, like I said, even a couple months ago that I wasn't even on board with, is fraud is huge.
Hmm.
Like fraud, like I was in Florida, I was telling you about. I was in Florida and we went to a couple of his properties, and I know it's more rampant in Florida than here in Pennsylvania, but nevertheless, whatever's happening there is going to happen in other places in other around the country. But one manager said out of 10 applications, 5 of them are fraud. Another manager said out of 10 applications, 2 of them are real. So 8 of them are fraud. So everybody was saying, but like, look at that high degree of fraud. Like either 1 out of 2 applications are going to be fraud or even more. So, and like I said, I'm sure Florida just has a higher number of that because you just got a lot of
We
people in
just
Florida. A lot of scammers just sitting
we
there. So
always see the Florida man accounts.
but whatever is happening there, on to some degree, is going to be happening all across the country.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that was like a shocker to me to see this that much fraud. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are doing it here in Pennsylvania too. I probably had like I told my manager about this, and she's like, "Well, that doesn't happen here." I'm like, "You don't know." I was like, "You don't know how many people you've rented to that have already scammed you, and they're sitting in there, and you spent like a few dollars to help that prevention, but that few dollars that you spent to prevent it costs thousands of dollars once a person gets in. You have to get them out and all that, and then the damage created after they leave. It's
How is
really
exactly the fraud that they make? So they apply and
look. It's so easy for people to just create W-2s. You know, they can just create any type of paperwork they want.
oh
They can create
really?
a
So
fake
like
identity.
those
They
those
can create a fake identity. They can create W-2s. They can create, you know,
did they
uh,
submit like false income um W-2s, which otherwise they wouldn't qualify.
I just know that these scammers, they come in, they'll just create like a fake ID. They even have this thing where it takes a picture of your ID. It's called checkpoint. They'll take a picture of your ID and they'll immediately verify if that's really you. You know,
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that
so
sounds it sounds like a good way to prevent anybody from squatting.
people now, I mean, they can call, and this has happened, and this is really crazy. People now with the whole voice technology and stuff, they can call, like, say if you have a bank mortgage, and we'll call you, or we'll send a message to you that we're changing our bank accounts to such and such, and then you start paying the mortgage to a different bank account without verifying it. Then the bank calls you up 2 months later, like, yo, you're behind on your mortgage. Well, what do you mean? I've been paying you. No, you haven't been paying us. You've been paying somebody else. Like, this is actually what's happening.
Wow.
So they can call, like, people are, they can, take my son's voice. They can mimic my son is calling me saying, Dad, I'm in trouble. I need this money right now. Send it. Like, so like it's happening in real estate as well. Like, whereas though people have actually been, sending their mortgage payments to a different bank account. And
Wow.
the bank is saying you're behind on your mortgage payments. And they were paying them, or they thought they were. They
That
paid money.
is
The money went, and then it just didn't go to the right place.
exactly. So someone, yeah, that's wow. That's awful. So someone's calling in, pretending to switch the bank account where the money's going, and then the person's
Yeah.
still paying, and then at the
Or
end
they'll
they're
send a communication, they'll send you an email, who knows, but this is just everything that happens when you need to change a bank account, especially with mortgages, banks, stuff like that. You want to verify each and everything. My wife just got a credit card. We were in a couple weeks ago, we were away, and then she's get these emails. You've been approved for this Chase card. And then we get the card in the mail. And then we call them. We're like, we never applied for a card. And the person's already like charged stuff on this card.
what?
And then we didn't even activate the card.
That is crazy.
So it's scary, but these are things that investors need to be aware of
Yeah, it
for
is.
sure.
It is. Yeah. Thanks for sharing it. I know a lot of people are definitely going to value. And so what kind of properties are you looking for when the market goes a little bit better?
For me personally, I want to look at uh, the last biggest deal we did was in 2019. The last deal I did was 2 years ago. I bought a 90 unit high rise or mid rise in Reading, Pennsylvania. But before that, in 2019, which is 4 years we just completed, we did a $50 million deal. We bought 800 units for $50 million. So absorbing that, and it was really this guy, the previous owner really just didn't pay bills. So it was really a lot of we're putting out a lot of fires and dealing with a lot of stuff at the same at the first few months
Hmm.
acquisition. So look, going forward, I love, my goal is to get like what you talked about, that 700 unit, you know what I mean? Something newer. So something 500 above is what I'm trying to shoot a little bigger, because my goal is I have about 2,200 units right now. My goal is to go to 5,000 next 5 to 10 years, go to 5,000 units.
Yeah.
Am I really strongly driven? Like, but our growth has been organic growth, where deals come at different times. But it's really I believe a lot in our family is very spiritual, I think, and we believe a lot in like just living with honesty, integrity, authenticity, and being good. And as a result, like there is this law of that what goes around comes around, and you'll draw to yourself the right opportunities if you're the right person,
Hmm.
and those opportunities be able to stay. So fast money comes fast, goes fast.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are shysters, so they'll come up, but they always come down,
Hmm.
so you want to come up, but you want to stay up and you want to keep going up, and life is about ups and downs, no doubt. But on the long trajectory, you want to be kind of going up.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's who you are, it's who you become, it's your character that's really gonna, really important in business, for honesty, integrity. What goes around comes around. You got to be aware of the scammers and all that stuff too. You got to be smart. You can't just be, Mr. Magoo. But at the same time, it's what you put out there that comes back to you for sure. That law is a universal law.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure that has served you well, and I just want to make sure that the audience knows that what you meant by organic growth is that you've been growing with your own money, right?
Yeah, organic growth is like, it's not like we have this schedule of like, of this trajectory, we want to do that. But yes, that's true as well, that we've been growing without taking investors. We never like raised money from other people, other than the first deal that my father did. He had like a small partner, but that partner had to go to India or something and he paid him off. But after that, he never did partnerships, or he never raised money from other people. He always used what he had from the one property to build to the next property, to build to the next property, and then just, getting loans from the bank and using what he could.
Exactly.
So
So for you to go to 5,000 units, that's going to 5,000 units where you're
And
just
from those, I'm gonna say from that 52 units that he bought 40 some years ago, we as a family have 5,000 units already. Because I
yeah.
have a brother, he's got about 2,500, I got about 2,200, so we're over 4,700 units already
Hmm. Yeah.
from that what happened 40 years ago, from that one seed that was planted. It
Yeah.
just kind of organically grew, and then now we're at very close to 5,000 units as a family.
Yeah. So your dad, did he go up in units after that first deal?
Yeah, he just kept on buying.
Buying and buying and buying.
Yeah, yeah,
And then now you and your brother have both 2000 plus.
yes,
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a really great example of what family um can do to help each other grow. And I, I know you touched on this honesty, integrity, and reputation, and I just want to make sure that the audience knows what it is that you're talking about because this can lead to a whole lot of success.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, your characters is so important, and you know, I think that's really has built our business more than anything. Is the principles that our father has taught us. He's a very honest guy. He's very hardworking, but never really trying to take advantage of anybody, and just he's very kind-hearted. Very giving. So like whatever he put out there, he just built these relationships. Because when it comes down to it, the person who's going to sell to you is a person. AI is not going to make that decision that this person is going to buy the property. It's people, and you got to have people skills, and you got to be good with people, and so people will sell to who they like, right?
Mhm.
And it was hard for somebody like him, a migrant, to get into the business. That was really, there wasn't people of his ilk in the business. For everybody he's dealt with or bought from, nobody's been from his country or ethnicity. It's been other people, but people have showed him kindness as well, and people have showed him love, and so it's like, you know, and then he's got to turn around and you got to love the property. When you get the property, that baby, you got to love it, put love into it, love it. That property will grow. If you don't love it, you neglect it. So we, some people like taking stray dogs or whatever, stray pets. We taking stray properties, neglected properties, and give them love,
You give them a
and
home.
nurture those properties, and cast out the darkness, so to speak. Bring in the light, bring in some safety, some security, some place where people can live and function without having to be worried, with a whole lot of violence or things of that nature. Try to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah, yeah, totally right. Um, so it's incredible. Going to newer construction, you want still something that's value add, right? And so, what are some common things that anybody who's looking into a property could identify that are opportunities to value add?
So one thing with new construction nowadays too is you're gonna have probably people that are finishing projects or about to finish projects that are gonna need to sell as well. So there
Hmm.
may not be like a value add component where you're gonna go in there and fix up anything, but you might get it at a good discount. That would be ideal for me, to find
Hmm.
something that's at completion or about to be completion, and they just, they ran out of money and they need to sell, or the bank's just the bridge loan that people get in, because the bridge loan's screwing a lot of people up. The bridge loan, you're paying 4%, and then all of a sudden you're paying 10%, you're paying 12%, because the rates keep going up.
Hmm.
A lot of people are just, they're having difficulties. They're trying to survive till 25, right?
Hmm.
So, but value add for us is, for us, the first value add on and as far as on our history has always been management side. We want to improve the management. We want to improve the management. We want to improve, what the tenants are getting. We want to improve the property, and so those are the things that we got to fix up. And there's just always, every property is different, but there's always things to improve.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, definitely bringing down the expenses would be a huge improvement to the bottom line of the property. Also,
Yeah.
adding things like pet fees or, parking fees or, laundry fees,
Yeah.
cleaning fees, something like that.
I was on that tour in Florida I was telling you about recently with Mr. Bobby Castro. and he loves these dog parks that he adds in. Helps him
Dog
bring
parks?
the bottom line. Doggy parks. He put like a little doggy park in there with the fake grass and you know and
Oh,
like a pet park. It's like really for dogs, right?
for tenants, yeah, to bring their
Yeah.
dogs and let them run around
That's
with other
one of the
dogs.
things that he showed me at like every property. It's like the doggy parks. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never.
and that's I think that brings a higher premium tenant because
He even
that,
showed me this little putting thing that he put in. He goes like, put in this putting thing, and people just looking, and he's like, "Oh, we'll be able to go punting," and they never come and use it even. But unless when they come and they see that little putting green or that little small putting park or whatever, So nowadays for the higher class properties, it's about amenities.
Mhm.
Um, but honestly, I have all, mostly C class workforce housing, some, B kind of area, but none of the newer vintage yet. So that's kind of my focus now going
That's what you
forward.
want to get, right? For
Yeah, I want
you,
to move a newer
an ideal
vintage.
property could be maybe like a B class in an A area, right? That you can maybe turn to an A.
I don't know. If that's available, but yeah, who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah, it's just it's hopefully the market provides that. Um, and so how important is it for the people here? Did you ever go in with single family? Did you ever go into that? Did you
So
even look at it?
when my father started real estate, he went to visit a friend in New Jersey, and the friend had a triplex, and he was living on the bottom.
Yeah.
And he showed my father how the two people upstairs were paying the mortgage. So that's when the light went on for him, and he got the idea that he wanted to get into real estate and get other people to pay the mortgage. But he
Yeah.
didn't start with single family. He went right to apartments. The first deal we got was an apartment building.
That's a big courageous jump for your dad.
That's the other thing. He had a lot of courage. You know what I mean? It takes courage. When you talk about character, the quality of courage is so important, especially when you're buying multifamily, especially when you're getting into to real estate and multifamily, or even if you're starting with a fiveplex or whatever. It takes courage for sure
Yeah.
to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, your dad is definitely one of the passionate few who a lot of people start in single family and they're still in single family. There's a lot of my group members, in there right now, and there's a lot of interest from people into multifamily, but it's a whole different game. It's a bigger game. It's a better game, you know.
Yeah, you definitely have the advantage of scale and things of that nature rather than the smaller houses. So my father's 84. He just picked up my kids because they have they're home for the summer, the end of summer at least, and took them to Allentown, which is like a 45 minute, or from his house, an hour drive.
Yeah.
So it's 3 days a week, he's still driving. He's 84 years old. He's still driving to Allentown, where a lot of his properties are, and he still goes to the office. He still checks on things. He's still working at 84 years old and very active.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a really great example of someone who doesn't confine to the, you know, up to 65 retired age. That's just something people made up for the 9 to 5ers.
Motion is the lotion. You got to keep moving. If he sat down and just started to take it easy or retire, you know what I mean? You see that the health also starts to go. So the fact that he continues to move and continues to use his mind and use his capabilities, it keeps him healthier and younger.
Yeah. So let's talk about strategy. From the properties that you got, how were you able to grow? What was your strategy to scale, to get more?
Strategy has been simple. You take care of what you got, and
Mhm.
then you use that to bounce to the next one.
What does that look like? Does that look like a cash out refinance? Does it look like you sell it and 1031 it, or just
We
the
have not,
cash flow?
we have not sold much of anything. So we're barely buy and hold. So we buy, hold, and then you can always refinance, pull out money. It is until recently, like I said, this kind of like new mindset that's kind of dawning on me, where I'm now looking at in the future to start moving assets, because I felt like you could always have these assets forever, right? Like, because
Yeah.
you don't create more real estate, but then things will change with the older assets as we move into this new time period. So so it's always been buy and hold. We buy a property, we hold it, we get a 15-year mortgage on it, we pay it off, we use that equity, buy another property, or we use the cash flow from those properties to stack our money and then, put down on another property. But that's all going to change now. Now, like I said, now it's like more so like looking at, to be able to, there's using different types of loans that, we've never used in our family before. We've always, the key loan my father's always done is paid off and get more equity, paid off and get more equity. I don't think that I'm starting to now expose myself to other ways of investing and looking at, refinancing and understanding that you can just constantly pull money out of a property without over leveraging yourself and using that equity or using those finances to go and get other deals.
Yeah. So moving forward, what are you looking to do?
So that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to wait for the market to come back and then start maybe moving some of the older vintage that I have and transfer those into more of the newer asset class,
Yeah. Yeah.
19 and above, or get back into 200s even, 200,000,
That
like
makes sense.
what
Yeah.
I'm saying,
That's
to move
great.
older stuff into
Oh,
newer stuff.
I want to touch on something that we spoke about just quickly, and then we got to wrap up. I know that you went to visit Bobby Castro, and one of the reasons why you went was because you wanted to teach your son or show your son kind of like what real estate can be like on a big scale. And I just want to explain that to the audience because a lot of people, a lot of people may have children and maybe going through something like that you were. So,
What I said to my son before he went down there, because he was like, he thought we were going to put him on the spot or something like that. I said, look, your mind can only envision what you've already seen from the
mhm,
past. So in order to expand your vision, you need to see something else, or you get some divine guidance or something where you're able to, expand your vision. But the only way to really see a vision other than what you've already seen in the past is to create a new experience. So going there and seeing something different, having a different experience, a different look, was able to expand his vision. And vision is everything in life, period. Regardless of what you do, multifamily or whatever you're going to do, vision is key. Without a vision, you perish. You have to have a vision for where you want to go. And the stronger and clearer and more vibrant your vision is, the easier you're going to have to actualize that vision and create it, manifest it, right?
yeah, that's amazing. And do you think your son got what he
Yeah,
what
he's quiet about it, but for sure I can tell, but just by certain changes. Like today, he went with my father. Now all of a sudden, he's picking my father's brain. He's going with my father. He's trying to like absorb as much knowledge as he can from my father and different things of that nature. So his interest has been piqued, and he really sees that. Like my other son is actually studying real estate in NYU in New York, and he's like he already taken within 8 months. He's taken like real estate finance, real estate law, real estate accounting. He's taken all these classes already, so his mind is like, he's able to calculate IRRs and all these, different things, present value, future value, all these things that I even beyond, what I even use. So these guys are like set to go way beyond anything that I'm doing right now. And that's what I'm happy about, because right now I'm doing everything I can for them, for the future for them, because that's the thing is, real estate is a generational thing. You want to do something for the next generation. My father did what he did because he was an engineer that kept on getting laid off in this country. So he did what he did, getting into real estate and in business, because he didn't want his children to face those type of difficulties and have to, to be laid off or be told by somebody else, when they can work, when they can't work, or whatever. So he did what he did. That was a big motivational factor for him in his early days of real estate, was to create something that his sons would be able to. And he's real happy that his sons are involved and interested in the business, where you don't always have that. Some people, you got a lot of baby boomers now, right, in this country, and they're going to be, they're going to be either passing it off to the younger generation or having to sell it because the younger generation doesn't want it, because they want to do whatever they want to do. So they maybe not see the beauty in it.
yeah, that's true.
But I just want to also say, like, I also have a YouTube channel, Sharma's Karma. It hasn't been very active, but there's some content about real estate and multifamily on there, if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
Sharma's Karma. Um, so
Yeah. Yeah, so We can
And
find
there's
you at
KarmaCast. I have a couple podcasts called KarmaCast. I haven't done an episode in a while, but there's some good episodes on there. There's one episode where I interview my father and and kind of give his story. I gave a little brief inputs of that, but and he gets to analyze deals and talks about real estate as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, so thank you for, wrapping up, and if people want to follow you or watch more content from you, they can go to your YouTube channel at Pankaj Sharma
Yeah. Yeah.
and
No,
also
no, Sharma's Karma. Sharma's Karma is a
Sharma's
YouTube
Karma.
channel. And embodying_spirit is Instagram.
Embodying_spirit. Got it. Perfect. So yeah, I thank you so much, Pankaj, for coming to the
Yeah, my
podcast.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. For
Yeah,
sure.
and I hope to have more talks in the future.
For sure, man. We're gonna bring that deal. You're gonna bring that deal to me, man. That 700 unit.
Let's do it. All right, man.